Ooh, it is getting hot. Summer is preheating. What can you do now in the subtropics to grow vegetables through the summer? I've got 10 vegetable varieties that are good choices for you to grow in high heat. Well, if you live somewhere like I live, Zone 9A on the Texas coast, it's subtropical and summers get really hot. Currently, even though we had a cold front, a cool front pass through recently, it's still in the 90s today. And wow, that's getting hot. Tomatoes are going to stop setting fruit because the heat in the night, the heat in the day, it's just too much for those tomatoes to set fruit. I could nurse my tomatoes along through the summer and put some shade cloth up, try to keep them going to hope for a crop later on when it cools off. I don't have time for that. I got things I need to grow that are going to thrive and produce in the summer. My garden is a small garden, and there are things that I can grow here that thrive in the heat. I've got a list of them right here in my pocket, and I'm going to share it with you now. Okay, it is the end of May. It's going to be June. My summer growing season is from June through July and August and into September, all the way through the end of September. And it's October the 1st that is when I like to get my fall garden planted, sometime around there. So I've got about 3 to 4 months where I can grow crops during the summer. The first crop that I am going to put in almost every single year is cowpeas. Cowpeas are awesome. If you've never heard of a cowpea, I think you probably have and just don't know it. Cowpeas include black-eyed peas, purple hull peas, zipper creams, all kinds of southern peas, and there are hundreds of varieties of cowpeas that you can try. Cowpeas grow through the heat. They love the heat. They thrive in the heat. Even if you've got poor soil, cowpeas are for you. They will perform well, and you can treat them as green beans when they're young. You can shell them when they're nice and plump, or you can let them dry and keep them as dry storage beans. Cowpea is a legume. It's very flavorful, and I grow them every year. In fact, this year, I've got one called the gray speckled palipy. The gray speckled palipy was the first cowpea I grew, and it was delicious. I've been looking for it. I finally found it at Experimental Farm Network seed store online. So that's what I'm going to be growing this year, the cowpea. It will thrive in the summer heat. Number 2 might surprise you. It's the lima bean. At least the lima beans I've grown, which are the Christmas variety, and there's another one I'll show you. I'll put it up on the screen. These two thrive in the heat. I've grown lima beans through the summer, and they have been heavy producers. So if you want something to trellis up your bean trellis once your green beans give out, which sometimes green beans will make it through the summer, but I'm going to grow lima beans because they grow well here for me in the heat. They don't seem to get many diseases. They're heavy producers, and wow, you get a big batch of lima beans. So that's number 2, the lima bean. Sow them from seed right now at the end of May and see what you get. Moving right along to number 3. What is a summer garden in the South without okra? Okra thrives in the heat. It laughs at the heat, and it grows crazy, and it's a beautiful plant. Okra is one of those plants where you can sow right now. You can sow at any time, really, but it really thrives in the heat of summer. It's a beautiful plant with beautiful blossoms. It's almost an ornamental. You can plant it that way. There are all kinds of varieties of okra, too. There are, 10-foot tall okra stalks. There are miniature okras and small okras. I grow, this year I'm growing one that I got from Experimental Farm Network called Annie Oakley okra. And I'm also growing my favorite red okras, a burgundy okra from Baker Creek. And these have done well for me. They produce all through the summer. They're heavy producers. You have to stay on top of harvesting and get them when they're small. And then you can eat them right out of the garden, or you can pickle them, or you can fry them, put them in soups. Okra. You got to have some okra in your garden in the summer. Number 4, perpetual spinach. Perpetual spinach. If you've never heard of perpetual spinach, well, I hope you try it. Perpetual spinach is actually a Swiss chard, but it tastes more like spinach. In fact, I've done a taste test between spinach and Swiss chard, the perpetual spinach variety, and I like perpetual spinach better. Perpetual spinach, Phoebe just bumped the tripod. Thanks, girl. Perpetual spinach laughs at the heat. I've had perpetual spinach started in the spring, grow through the heat of the summer, grow through the bitter cold of a pretty good winter where we got snow, and then keep growing all through the spring. The only thing that killed it back was spider mites. But I got an entire year out of that. Fresh, good greens from your garden. Hard to grow in the heat of the summer, but perpetual spinach is one of those few greens you can grow in the midst of the summer that's not slimy. So give it a try. Number 5. Number 5 is winter squash. Winter squash is grown in the summer, and it's if you're a new gardener, it's kind of counterintuitive, right? It sounds like, well, winter squash, I should grow it in the winter. Winter squash are like your pumpkins and your butternut squash. Cucurbita moschata is usually the family that you want to look for. These are long vining plants, and you grow them in the summer. The reason they have the name winter squash is they are a storage crop. You harvest them at the end of the summer, maybe in mid-fall, and then those become storage crops through the winter. That's why around October, pumpkins are everywhere. They've been grown through the summer and they're harvested, in October, and they store well. So grow some winter squash. One of the challenges in my area of growing any kind of squash is the squash vine borer, and they kill my winter squash quite aggressively. There are steps you can take to deal with these vine borer moths and the larvae that they lay inside the vines of your squash. Cucurbita moschata, those varieties that you look for, like butternut squash, Seminole pumpkins, these are all Cucurbita moschata. There's several varieties of that you can find. These will send out vines, and you can cover each node with soil, and that will cause the roots to form. So if the vine borer attacks closer to the original plant, it will kill that off, but if you've got roots growing along your vine will survive. That's the only way I'm able to get a harvest to here, but if you don't have vine borer pressure, you can grow tons of these wonderful pumpkins. Number 6, one of the plants that you can grow through the summer usually is eggplant. Now you want to have your eggplant already established by this point, the end of May. You want to have little plants or something in your garden, but eggplants generally tolerate the heat and put on fruit. They're able to pollinate in high heat and give you a good harvest. I have grown eggplants many years, and I find I just don't really like eggplant. There's only one recipe I like it in, and I can't find that recipe. It was from childhood. My mom used to make it, and the cafeteria ladies at school used to make it. It was an eggplant tomato casserole. I liked it that way. But if you love eggplant, that's one of the things you can grow through the heat of the summer, and it should do well for you. Look for more traditional varieties that are established. I'm not sure that some of the long Asian varieties will thrive in the heat unless they come from the southern parts of Asia, the tropical parts. But I know that things like Black Beauty and our traditional American eggplants tend to do well. I'll tell you what grows well here for me in the subtropics during the height of summer. It's mustard greens. So that's our 7th variety. I think it's 7, yep. 7th variety that I would suggest you grow in the heat of summer. Mustard greens do well for me during the heat of summer. Sometimes collard greens will do okay, but if you really want to have a source of greens and you like growing that kind of stuff, mustard greens, you can sow it now. It'll take off and thrive through the summer. I've had mustard greens reseed themselves and come up volunteer and grow all through the year in the middle of my path. So one of the mustard greens I suggest you look for is called Green Wave. That's the variety that was successful for me. I'm not real familiar with other varieties, but I do know and can attest that Green Wave variety of mustard greens has grown through our blistering hot 100-degree days, 70% humidity on average, and produced very well for me, and was relatively pest-free. Not a lot of pests like to chew on your mustard greens, so give it a try. Number 8 on our list is the sweet potato. Look at these sweet potato slips. I have grown these things from slips from last year's sweet potatoes, and they're going crazy. They love the heat. You can eat the leaves, and wow, sweet potatoes will grow for you all through the summer. I like to try to have my sweet potato slips in around now, end of May, early June. That's ideal slip planting time. They will grow year-round for you if you live in Zone 9, sometimes Zone 8. Maybe even you've had success in more northerly zones. Sweet potatoes will grow year-round if you let them. I tend to put them in as a summer crop so that at the end of summer, maybe in September, early October, then I can go and harvest. And these sweet potatoes have been a good performer for me. You can perpetually grow them by saving your smaller ones, your smaller tubers, and putting them in some water, or like I did here, burying them in some potting soil, and they'll grow these slips for you. We'll dig these out, pull them off with some roots, and plant them in the garden. That's a good one, sweet potatoes. The ninth vegetable that is a real stunning performer in our high heat is Malabar spinach. Now, Malabar spinach is not really well known to a lot of gardeners because, well, we don't buy it in the store. We don't really eat much of it. But if you're looking to grow a prolific green that's hard to kill and has high nutrition, Malabar spinach is what you might look for. It is mucilaginous, meaning it is slimy. And some people are put off by that, but it has a good mild flavor. And if you can tolerate that sliminess, it's great in salads. It's great treated as a stir-fry green. It will vine everywhere and take over wherever it goes. So you got to keep it in a place you can keep it under control. I've found that it's easy to get rid of if you don't want it in an area. It just takes a little work. You got to chop up all those vines. It is a long vining plant, and there are several varieties to choose from. So if you're looking for a summer green and you don't mind a little slime, which actually means it's really healthy for your guts, if you don't mind that, take a look at Malabar spinach. Number 10. The 10th vegetable or fruit, in this case, that will do well for you in the summer are melons. And that includes cantaloupe, honeydew, watermelons, things like that. These are good performers in the summertime if you keep them watered and keep them irrigated. I've had very good luck with cantaloupes and watermelons. The only problem I have is I had animals that came in and ate my fruit. We got watermelon a couple years ago when we planted it. It grew through the summer, vined out all over the place. It was relatively pest-free, but we had to stay up on top of irrigation. So if you're looking for a sweet treat in the summertime, plant your watermelon seeds, plant your melon seeds right now. Better actually to have them planted about 3-4 weeks ago here in Zone 9A, but it's a good fruit that'll carry you through the summer and give you something to look at, some good harvest. Again, just irrigate well and don't let them dry out. They will droop their leaves in the middle of the heat of the day, like right now. They will droop their leaves. That doesn't mean they need water. That just means they're protecting themselves from the heat by pumping their water into their root system, and their leaves kind of wilt. They transpire a lot of moisture out of the petioles, those holes on the bottom of their leaves. But you'll notice when the shade hits them again, they'll perk back up. So don't overwater when you see that. Just make sure that you test the soil, put your finger in there, up to your second or third, up to your second knuckle there, or maybe all the way in. If there's moisture down there, they're fine. Just make sure that soil doesn't dry out, and you'll have a summer sweet treat. Well, there's some fruits and vegetables that'll grow well for the southern gardener, the heat-loving plants that thrive in a subtropical environment. But I have a bonus for you. So, number 11, try some Chinese noodle beans. They're also called yard-long beans. These are a legume. They put on these pods that are 18 to 24 inches long. You can get green varieties, purple varieties. And if you put them on a trellis, like an arch trellis, they'll hang down in a dramatic fashion. So these noodle beans are great in a stir fry. I like them when they're about the width of a pencil. Very delicious. Give those noodle beans a try. They will thrive in the heat because they come from tropical Asia. A good choice. Well, thanks for joining me on Black Gumbo Southern Gardening. I hope that list of 10 plus 1 summer loving crops was encouraging. I hope it gives you some ideas. And if you live where it gets really hot, give those things a try. There's another angle on this. If you live in a more northerly zone and you didn't get your spring garden in on time, now's a great time to take some of these summer loving crops, put them in your garden, see how they do. So yeah, thanks for joining me today. If you're looking for a source of seeds for your summer crops, try Seeds for Generations down below. If you use my link, you'll support our channel a little bit. So, happy gardening to you. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.